Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Griiix, and today I am going to probably do my last and final boomer tutorial forever because I just can't keep up, but I really do want to crunch it down within 25 minutes. So if you guys want to learn boomer in a short amount of time, this will be the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Okay guys, before we begin, there's just a few things you will need to know about Boomer, which is Boomer's max range from basically from any starting position. If you really want to know, just drag your S2 as far as you can, and until you can see that white transform marker, that is about 30 spaces. I currently have a range jewel on my poor rabbit, so it will go past the 30 spaces mark, but ideally this right here would be your 30 spaces. So if you guys can see, it's about 32 with your range jewel. A fun fact for all you boomer beginners, if you are playing boomer in the front position and you are faced in blind wind with the compass reading north or perfectly south, then all you have to do on a blind wind is make sure you drag your transform marker on top of your target, and you will hit them every single time. If it is a north wind, chances are you might get a super sky, but chances are you'll probably just get a sky. And if it is a downwind, a south wind, then you might not get anything, but maybe even a sky, who knows. A fun fact for Boomer is that north and south wind is read completely reverse compared to standard tanks. So if your opponent spawns close to you because maybe they just want to, and for whatever reason you need to shoot at them, that transform marker rule does not apply, simply because if it is a north wind, it will drag your white line, the boomerang, up. However, it does not affect the red line, which means if the boomerang goes up higher, the red line actually shoots a little bit further back towards you if it is a upwind. Now if it is a downwind, you will the boomerang will shoot a little bit further back. So how you compensate that is literally just doing the reverse thing you already know with your standard tanks, and you should be good. However, when I first started playing boomer, the line was just a bunch of dots. Personally, I prefer learning boomer using the dotted lines simply because these dotted lines is an ideal marker that I'm about to show you what I mean. Previously in my long boomer tutorial, I explained a little bit on how the dots work. However, with the recent patch changes, they keep changing boomer a little bit at a time, so the dot mechanism doesn't work as well as it used to. However, the rule still applies. In the previous boomer changes that I know of, the red dotted lines you see here, they stay exactly the way they are. They don't expand and retract. Now if you see here, at least based on how I see it, the lower power you get, the distance between each red dot shrinks a little bit. This is the new update, which is why you guys kind of have to extend it a little bit further to kind of get the full picture. When you're playing boomer, you will need to know your 62.5%, 75%, and also 125%. And for shooting SS, chances are, in some rare occasions, you will need to know 150%. As for me, however, because I play boomer quite a bit, and also I just know my 75% between the numbers of 1 to 12, I don't really need that. But for complicated math, which is that 0.5%, the 62.5% and also the 125, it actually makes a difference if you were to just times it by 6 or you times it by 12. That 0.5% difference will make a huge difference when the wind is above 10. So that's why I just keep it with me, so that when I play this game, I can just yank out the tab if I need it, and I would highly recommend you guys to do the same. In terms of how I play, guys, I play by mathematical calculations. A lot of people do play by feel, so if you guys are the player who play by feel, this method might sound fucking ridiculous to you, but however, I will try to explain the best of my knowledge how my math works, and it works every single time. Before I explain something, I just want to let you guys know that Boomer's red line acts like a pendulum. So what that means is, if the top of the pendulum moves slightly, little, like incrementally, at the bottom of the pendulum, it will make a huge difference. Just as if you try to imagine holding a necklace and you're swinging it like a grandfather clock, the top might not be moving much, but the bottom will move, depending on how long the line is. And that's how Boomer's S2 weapon and also S1 weapon works. So if you guys remember the math percentage chart that I just mentioned a few moments ago, this is what I mean. As you can see here, the transform marker, this is 62.5%. The red dot above the transform marker, that's 50%. Now the red dot below the transform marker, that's 75%. And the dot below that one, which is the second one, that is 100%. And the third dot below that, that is 125%. Now the fourth dot below that, that is 150%. However, you don't really need to use it every single time, only during horizontal wind. Now, one thing to note with upwind and also downwind, it will drag your weapon either higher or lower, like I've mentioned previously. So when you are adjusting your basically, where these two dots are going to meet, you will have to adjust accordingly to the up and downwind slightly, just to match it. Otherwise, chances are, if you have a very strong upwind and you aim it as you do normally, as if there was no upwind, chances are your boomerangs will cross paths and you'll probably end up hitting with one or two boomerangs in the reverse X. So that's not what you want. So do keep in mind. Okay, so how the dot works is you will have to line up the dots perfectly aligned with the tank. And when I say tank, I don't mean the avatar on top of the tank, I mean the actual tank. That's how much room you get when you are aiming with this method. If for whatever reason your dot ends up being, let's say, at the eye level of your opponent's avatar's head, chances are you might have a high chance of missing in a stronger wind. Now, what you really want to do is to make sure the dot system is lined up with your opponent's tank rather than the avatar. And that is the same with the transform marker when you are aiming as well. Now, just to briefly explain to you what that percentage means, for instance, I'm just going to give you a very flat out easy number, 10. If, for instance, just imagine the wind compass aiming it at 3 o'clock and the wind is 10, what you need to do with your transform marker at the very least is measure about 6.25 that spaces. And now that I have you with the percentage base, I just want to explain to you what I mean about power ratio. When I say wind to power ratio, it means if the wind compass is indicating that the wind is 10, doesn't matter what direction it is, right? Just because whatever number says on the wind meter, it doesn't actually mean what it means based on the direction. So for instance, once you figured out what the actual number is, and that is all based on how you read the wind, once you figure out the number, you literally times it by 0.625, which is 62.5%, and that's how much you would measure it, meaning 6.25 spaces. All right. If the ratio is 75%, meaning 0.75 to 1 wind, every 1 wind, you will have to move 0.75 notches on the ruler. Now, obviously, with 1-to-1 wind, if it indicates as 10 wind, you will have to yank and pull back 10 spaces, which is 1 full ruler. Now, obviously, I'm just going to say this, and I'm sure you guys are smart enough to figure this one out. A power ratio of 1.25 to 1, meaning it is 125%. Every 1 wind, you will have to move the ruler by 1.25 spaces. Now, playing Boomer is all about feel, because ideally you want to graduate to your lines instead of using the polka dots, because honestly, the line is much better. But once you get the sense of what 75% is, what 100% is, what 125% is, basically reading how far the dot to your opponent is. Once you figure that out and kind of have your eyeball sense, and again, guys, you will have to play a lot of Boomer to kind of have that muscle memory memorized, or I don't even know if it's a muscle memory because you're using your eyes, but once you figure that out, you can graduate to the line and just play as is and play by feel. Because let's be honest, guys, using the line system when shooting SS, it is so much fucking easier. So ideally for me, the way I found it is you just have to measure the height of an average tank and avatar and times that by 3. So what I mean by that is, as long as your white dot, your transform marker, is about, let's say, is about 3 of the avatar and tank stacked on top of each other, that's about 100% power ratio, meaning a 1-to-1 ratio. And any further than that, obviously another tank above that, that would be 125%. And on horizontal wind, and chances are it will only happen on horizontal wind. If you want to, like yank it full power, you're going to be hitting at about 150%. Now, chances are, if you are yanking it all the way up here, let's just say this, and you don't even see a white line, I can guarantee you that is times 2. Just remember that pendulum idea that I mentioned. Yeah, it's real. So what you really want to do is not playing Boomer using full power, but using a eyeball method system, just so you can kind of gauge what 1-to-1 ratio is, or 125% power ratio. Because at 75% on a lucky shot, meaning you have upwind, you will get super sky, but on a flat wind, horizontal, or a downwind, chances are you will only get a sky. And if you're playing Boomer, you have to get your super sky. So ideally, I would highly recommend you memorizing your 125%, because that is so fucking important, along with other tanks as well. Guys, if you're ever wondering why when you yank it full power and the boomerang just goes fucking like off the rails, it's because you have to take whatever the wind is telling you and times it by 2 when you're yanking it in a position like this. Last but not least, you guys don't want to do that, because your SS capability, you're just going to be missing out. Your boomerang's going to cross path, and then it's not even going to all merge at the same spot when you're hitting the target. So yeah, don't ever fucking do this, guys. Now, if you are playing a real game, chances are you will need to know the reverse boomerang hit. It seems complicating, but it actually really isn't. Just imagine if your tank is faced this way and you're shooting like this, except you just have to pull it back a little bit more. The idea stays the same in terms of the distance between this transfer marker and your target. This looks to me like it's almost at a 1-to-1, but not really, so I'm just going to yank it. Yeah, there you go. That's about 1-to-1. So for instance, if the wind is perfectly horizontal, let's say facing 9 o'clock, okay? And the wind is telling me it is, let's see, I'm just going to say 6.5 or maybe even 7, between 6 and 7. If I throw my boomerang out right now in a 9 o'clock direction wind, saying it is 6.5, the boomerang's going to hit me. Exactly. So what you want to do is, and it looks so fucking boss when you can do this, make sure you have the appropriate wind, because you gotta understand one thing. If you have horizontal wind and too much of it, for instance, if the wind is 3 o'clock facing and it's like 12, chances are the white line's gonna be pushed past the midpoint, and then your boomerang ends up hitting the opposite direction that you need. So it only works if you are very up close or very low wind. And one of the thing with mastering your reverse boomerang, it is so vital, because if you are able to hit a super sky, fucking do that. But I always say, when you're playing any tank that has a multiple shot, always go for cloud first before you go for super sky. This method will allow you to tag almost any cloud within your proximity. If the cloud is, let's say, above your opponent, well, obviously just do a normal shot. If the cloud is above you or behind you a little bit, do the reverse hit. You will hit the cloud and also your target, and plus you'll look super boss, and you'll feel very, very good about yourself. All right, bonus feature, guys. I don't think I've ever made a S1 video, and just so you know, guys, this method only works if your red and white line ends up looking like a triangle, or very close to a triangle, because if your white line ends up looking like this and you shoot it based on what the wind meter is telling you, and then you times it by however many dots or whatever, this method does not work if your white line is not paired up with your red line. Now, however, if your white line extends a little bit more and beyond, this method will work. I don't know why. The white line, if you're shooting it the way I just showed you, that will not work. However, as long as your white line is below this, like, wait, where the fuck is it? As long as the white line is below maybe 45 degree, then it will mostly work in this method. Okay, guys, so for instance, if the wind is direction is 3 o'clock and the wind meter tells you it's 10, then the wind is 10. Now, if you want to shoot with S1 for God knows why, then how you would do it is, looking at this, I can see 4 red dots, and the last dot that I see, which is the 4th one, it lines up exactly with the tank. I would shoot it exactly the way it is, because 10 times 0.4 is 4. Now, going back to the Illuminati triangle, guys, just so you know, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to quickly, I don't know, I'll input something, but on neutral wind, which is your 10:30 o'clock and 4:30 o'clock, it is neutral wind. So if you are a boomer first shot on a blind wind, I personally, if it is those two wind direction, I always shoot S1 because it's a guaranteed hit. To measure the distance between the actual tank and where the transfer marker is to get 10 dots. Until you can get that, then you can start figuring out, okay, what's 50%, which is, you know, the 5th dot, and what's in between 5 and 10, right? So once you know that, you can literally hit anybody anywhere on the map. I'm gonna quickly end it off here. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments below, or if you haven't done so, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Go hit that thumbs up so that other people can enjoy this boomer love that I'm spreading, unless you're just one of those damn assholes who wants to keep information to yourself and then claim it as your own. Then, sir, I hope you get punched in the dick. Okay, guys, we are at the win meter. So in post, I'm gonna put my boomer on the left and my dark knack on the right, resembling that I am shooting from left to right. Now, if you guys are spawned on the opposite side, then you just have to reverse it. And so every 3 wind, you are going to have to move the notches on the ruler by 1. So if it is 6, then you move the crosshair completely off. And if it is 12, then you move it 4 spaces, like I've indicated previously. Now, the only thing about boomer is that the upwind and the perfect north and south wind, 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock, it's reversed compared to your standard tanks. So that means on a standard tank, let's just theoretically say the wind is 9 at 6 o'clock. You will have to move most likely 3 notches behind your enemy tank. Now, with boomer, you're gonna have to move it 3 notches in front. Now, the concept is actually very easy because you just have to imagine what the white line is doing. Now, the white line, for instance, at this example, it is 6 o'clock, 9 wind. Your white line is going to be dragged downwards because of the downwind. However, the red line is not affected. So now that we have the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock done, let's move on to the 3 o'clock, which is, the ratio is 1 to 1, meaning if the wind direction is pointing exactly at 3 o'clock, whatever the number indicates on the meter is whatever the number is. So if it's 12, it's 12, it's 1, it's 1, okay? That's how easy it is. Now, again, same thing on the polar opposite, 9 o'clock, same thing, it's 1 to 1. I don't know how to stress that. Now let's get on to the easy one, which is my favorite, to be honest, because I never miss on this shot, at 7:30 o'clock. Now, if you are shooting your boomerang at 7:30 o'clock, whatever the wind on the wind meter is telling you, you divide it by 2. So if it's 12, it's 6. If it's 5, it's 2.5. And if it is 20, it's 10. Just kidding. There is no 20. But you just have to divide it by 2. Now, as you can see here, from 7:30 o'clock to 6 o'clock, anywhere within this range, however you read the wind compass is whatever it is divided by 2. So for instance, I'm just going to say, for very good and easy example, let's say it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to say 7 o'clock and the wind is saying 10. I'm going to think that it's about 7. So I would take 7 divided by 2, meaning I would shoot 3.5. Okay, when we get to a direction like here, I would like to say it is neutral wind for most cases. If you are a far apart, 6 meters apart, COVID restriction guidelines, chances are you can yank it as high as you possibly can and then just point the crosshair right on your target. Now, if your opponent is within 0 to 10 spaces, meaning 1 full ruler, chances are this will not work because your white line is being dragged further down and your red line's not moving. And with the same concept that I've kind of issued early on, that concept stays the same. So what ends up happening is if your distance between the boomer, your boomer, and the dark knack is within 1 full ruler space, you will actually have to move the crosshair a little bit towards you, I believe. Yeah, I just had to fucking think. Yeah, you're gonna have to move the crosshair a little bit towards you, not behind the opponent. It's actually in front of the opponent, and then it will land the hit. But a lot of practice is needed. Now, if your opponent like to spawn close to you because they think you don't know how to shoot That's okay, guys. If the wind direction is about 7 o'clock and they are literally up in your face, meaning 1 ruler space, that becomes neutral wind. So you can just yank it and point it right at them and it will always hit. Let's move on over to 1:30 o'clock because it's the complete polar opposite. The same rule applies between 6 and 7:30 o'clock, will apply to 12 o'clock to 1:30 o'clock. As you can remember, everything in between that range, you divide it by 2. So whatever the number is whatever the number is divided by 2, and the same method for the neutral wind is the same. One thing to note with the 4:30 o'clock is whatever the wind meter tells you is whatever the wind meter tells you. Now, you might be thinking, whoa, what the fuck? How does that work? I am telling you right now, okay, that 3 o'clock to 4:30 o'clock is 1-to-1, meaning whatever the number indicates on your wind compass, it is whatever it is. I'm sorry, that's how it works. That's how Boomer works. I don't know how to explain it, okay? Other than that, yeah, so anywhere within the 3 o'clock to 4:30 o'clock range is what it is, so you don't have to stress. Now let's move on a little bit past the 4:30 to the 6 o'clock, meaning anywhere within this range right here. However you read the number is whatever the number is. Now, for what I mean by that is, let's say I am looking exactly at 5 o'clock, and the wind indicating on the meter is 10. To me, that seems more like a 7, maybe 8. I don't know. It really depends. It's definitely not a 6, and it is, so it's between 7 and 8. So for me, I would measure it at 7 or 8 spaces. I mean, just take your pick, man. But remember, you are shooting it at the 1-to-1 distance ratio. If you are shooting it at like a lower angle, meaning the white dot is a little bit lower, aka and you're aiming at about your 75% power ratio range, then it is whatever the number is. And for me, I would usually say it's 7. I would times it by 7.5, which is about 5.25. That's how I would shoot it. But if I am if I'm really confident, I would drag it up higher and shoot it at 7 spaces apart. And if I'm really confident and I just want to show off, I would do 7 times 1.25, which is about 8.75 or 9, and just aim it like that. So a lot of practice with the math and you will eventually get it, trust me. But yeah. Now moving on over to 3 o'clock to about 1:30 o'clock. This one is a little tricky because they changed this aspect a little bit, which is fucking weird. It used to be that the 1:30 to 4:30, whatever the wind tells you or the meter tells you, it is whatever it is. However, in the latest patch, they did change it, which is, let's see here between about halfway to 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So I would say 1:30 to 2:30, it's 75% of whatever the wind meter is indicating. I don't know why they changed it, but they did. So I just want to reiterate, it is 2:30 to 4:30. That is true to its number in terms of whatever the wind meter is telling you. At 2:30 to 1:30, it's 75%. Okay? As you can imagine, the polar opposite is also the same. Anywhere between 7:30 to 8:30, that's 75%. So it's no longer your number divided by 2, it's your number times 1.75. And if, again, you need a chart, I highly recommend you doing this. I use an iPad, so I can do this. I don't know if you're an Android. I don't know if an Android can do it. I'm sure it has the capability to do that. So that's what I would do. That's my cheat sheet, so don't look at it because it's mine. But at 8:30 o'clock to 8:30 o'clock, moving on over to 10:30 o'clock, that becomes like its polar opposite. The meter is correct and true. And again, same thing with the polar opposite between 10:30 and 12 o'clock. It's still 1-to-1 power ratio. However, you just need to understand, based on the direction, what the wind meter is actually telling you. That's the only thing you need to know in terms of reading the compass as a boomer with ST.